traditions. Despite philosophical differences between them, all major world religions have the same potential to create good human beings. Therefore, it is important for all religious traditions to respect one another and recognize the value of the respective traditions. And now, right, and with this, the third commitment, His Holiness has lately spoken of his commitment to revive the awareness of the value of ancient Indian language among young Indians today. His Holiness is convinced that the rich ancient Indian understanding of the workings of the minds and emotions, as well as the techniques of mental training, such as meditation, developed by Indian traditions, are of great relevance today. Since India has a long history of logic and reasoning, he is confident that its ancient knowledge viewed from a secular academic perspective can be combined with modern education. He considers that India is in fact specially placed to achieve this combination of ancient and modern modes of knowing in a fruitful way, so that a more integrated and ethically grounded way of being in the world can be promoted within contemporary society. Right. So I also wanted to emphasize on a very important thing which His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama mentioned today. So in a very sense of humor, he mentioned that this. He doesn't feel like that he's 88 years old, and he doesn't feel that he's so old and very lethargic in his mind. But his only commitment was that he's still young. He feels like that he's still 55, 60, and he's got the intelligence to still further the peace and harmony in this world. And it is really a prestigious thing for all of us. So with this, now I would like to welcome our chairperson, Mr. Professor Vivek Suneja ji, who is former Pro-Vice Chancellor of Delhi University, current Head and Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi, and our and our following guest speakers, Swami Sarvalokananda ji, Dr. Rabbi Ezekiel Isaac Malika ji, Dr. Khwaja Iftikhar ji, Professor Amrit Kaur Basra ji, and Dr. Shanaz Kama ji, and Dr. A.K. Merchant ji, and Dr. Ankit Goyal ji. Thank you very much for coming here. And now I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our director, Venerable Geshe Doje Damdullah, to kindly speak a few words on this auspicious occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Respected Professor Vivek Suneja ji, the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of Delhi University and the current Dean of the Management Department at Delhi University, and all the representatives of the different religious groups and the participants for this program, all the participants. Most of you are already aware of the Tibet House programs which we organized during the for His Holiness's birthday. And unlike what we used to do earlier, so this time we set up a small roundtable discussion for the reason that we His Holiness's to want to represent His Holiness's the sentiments, his thoughts, and what he likes the world, how he likes to see the world, and so forth. So His Holiness as a personality has a personality which is extremely practical, not really so much into formalities. This is His Holiness' personality. So His Holiness wants things to be really done rather than just on the like a picture of a pizza. There should be real pizza. So this is His Holiness's the personality. And in this connection, usually, say since my predecessor, we have the meeting of the spiritual religious, the groups, religious people, representatives, and they speak something about the, about number one, they send their regards, wishes for His Holiness's long life and so forth, and then they say some words or utter some verses from the holy books. So now I think that to resonate His Holiness's the deep thoughts, to be very practical, we need to come up with some concrete things. It's not that we have a dialogue here, discussion here, and then the next day the world will be changed. We can't expect this, but at least that we learn, okay, now this is something very different. We need to talk and aware something should move inside us. And this we carry with us to your family members, to your colleagues at the workplace, and so forth. And they say how to promote, number one, to reflect on the challenges the world faces in terms of the ecology, in terms of the governance, various governments at the national level, then on the domestic level, and just see where we find the crisis. And then the ecology is another very serious matter. And how the various countries, when it comes to their own profits, when it comes to their own benefits, then they just show a blind eye to the protection of the ecology. So we see that these are all the challenges. And then if you look at the different countries, we see that approaches are different. There are different approaches. And some are very gentle countries, some are more aggressive. And of course, population-wise, some are huge population, some are small population, some are materially very developed. And so we see that there's a diversity there. And because of this diversity, the approach is also different. And some are more humane, some are really very aggressive, so raw. So where deep inside, I personally feel that everyone, deep inside, everybody's same. There's no one the group of the person on this planet Earth who is superior over others. I don't believe in any of these things. I see that everyone is equal. Male, females, or say this ethnicity, that ethnicity, everyone is just the same. Good people are everywhere and bad people are everywhere. So now the point is that to bring about a little change within yourself, change within the family, change within the community, change within possibly in the world, in your own country, and in your own, say, the people who belong to the same religion that you believe in. Just see how to make them more open-minded, how to make them embracing others, to believe in inclusivity rather than exclusivity. And exclusivity is just a matter of it's a matter of time, where, say, when you are the majority, then the others, you can abuse others. When the others become majority, you'll be abused because they remember the history. So whereas we learn the inclusivity, where that we are all the same. And then finally, why inclusivity? Why exclusivity? Is because of the belief that I should be happy. My group should be happy. My religion, the people, the follower of my religion should be happy. And my ethnicity should be happy. So if you really want this to be happy, there should be no enemies. The moment you create this, you believe in exclusivity, you are creating enemies. The moment the enemy is created, you are never happy. So, but these things will come to us only through education. Education is so important. Believe it or not, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, education then was so backward in comparison with what we're having today. Because of that, many of the material problems are solved. Now, for example, I lost my mother at the age of 5, when I was 5, over the delivery complications. No, the medical facilities then. So now, it's so easy. It's so easy. So delivery complications today has reduced so much because of the medical advancements. So what I'm saying is that say, with education. This all happened because of the education, modern education. Now, His Holiness the Dalai Lama advocates in exclusivity. So therefore, the first program of the universal ethics, already conducted in many other places in the world, like Canada and so forth, under the broad vision of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And in Delhi, in India, on a large scale, that too on the academic level, Professor Vivekji, he initiated when he was the Pro-Vice Chancellor of Delhi University back in 2012. And he put his whole heart and soul there for this program, that it was a grand success. In 17 colleges under Delhi University, no compulsion, purely on the basis of the volunteer basis. Then the students were asked, and the teachers were also asked to volunteer, and it was successfully implemented in 17 colleges. And because of the massive success of this program, Universal Ethics, where all the students who took part in this program, even the teachers who were supposed to be leading the programs, these teachers, during the workshop, the teachers coming together once in a month to look for, to share their challenges that they faced and how others can come up with ideas to solve the problems. So teachers would say that, I don't know how much this program helps my students, but no doubt it helps me change myself a lot. Earlier, what I used to be very short-tempered and who would always bear some, the suspicion on others, being judgmental on others. Now I become a very different person. I can empathize with others. I can see that others also have the problem. So we are all in the same boat, rocking boat. We should give hand to each other. Not that the others fall, nor that I also fall, that we hold hands together. So this was what many of the teachers reported, and this is Professor Vivekji's the courage. And particularly for the world, we need to build the courage to really work, to take initiative, to work for the inclusivity, to bring the world closer to each other, and to make the world a better, more beautiful world. So the very next year, Professor Vivekji, he was thinking of actually implementing this program throughout the colleges, all the colleges under Delhi University. So then that was the initial seed, and then later on, with this, in the whole world nowadays, what today most of you have heard about C-learning, social, emotional, ethical learning. This is being wildly promoted. It's being implemented in many of the universities, colleges, institutions, schools, everywhere in the world. So I'm so glad that you're all here. Welcome, Professor Vivekji. It's always a great inspiration to see your courage and your love for the humanity, and all the participants from different religious groups, and all the participants in the audience. I welcome you all to this very happy birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venerable Geshe-la. Now I would like to request our chairperson, Professor Vivek Suneja ji, and our learned scholars to kindly land the lamp of wisdom at the altar. And I would also like to request all my fellow participants to kindly light the lamp over here. Please.
With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas for all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered misery's gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. Take it. Oh, no. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. Some may can come from this way, so it will be more quicker and more easier. Taishla. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions. Thank you. For all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma, bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. Folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the light of Dharma for all bewildered miseries gloom. Thank you. Please remain seated.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tenzin Romala. Now I would like to request our chairperson, Professor Vivek Suneja to kindly do the honor and of cutting the cake, of doing the cake ceremony. Yeah, I would like to inform everyone, we can sing the birthday song for His Holiness. Right.
Yes.
Right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Holiness. Happy birthday to you. Tashi dele, eketun kala tashi dele.
Eketun kala tashi dele.
Tashi dele. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we'll begin this session. Right. Now I would like to request Professor Vivek Suneja ji to kindly speak a few words. And before that, I would like to give a brief introduction about him. Professor Vivek Suneja ji. Right. Thank you very much, sir.
We are gathered here today on a most auspicious occasion, and I'm so deeply humbled by all the kind. Doji, holy people like you are not supposed to be lying, are you? All that you heard about me was fake news. But he's a great friend, so he's compassionate, yes? And compassion is what he teaches. So all that you heard was just pure compassion. But the reason we are here is such a auspicious occasion, and with Swamiji here and everybody from various religious communities. This is the beauty of India. We have in many countries it would be hard pressed to get a gathering like this from the local community. Yes, so many flowers together in this garden. In the garden below, we just planted a shok tree. Yes, you know what ashok means? What does shok means? Shok is suffering. Ashok means beyond suffering. Yes, the Emperor Ashok, who spread the word of Buddhism, the tree we planted, Ashok, means beyond suffering. And what is His Holiness preaching? What is he praying for? What has he worked for all his life? You know, you saw the first commitment there is to make sure all people, all sentient beings, not just people, yes, birds and trees and ants and and on so many planes. How many infinite planes there might be? Even scientists now say there are multiverses, not just a universe. So the Buddha, who was born a prince, prosperous, beautiful wife, lovely kingdom, and yet saw the suffering in the world, gave up, the story of the Buddha, to find the truth of the universe. And His Holiness is supposed to be an incarnation. Yes. So the 88th birthday, may His Holiness live to be 188 and 288 and 388. May I come and cut cakes. And there's a great incentive here. I'm an economist, so die-hard management guy. तो मेरा तो इंसेंटिव है, जितना होलीनेस रहेंगे शायद मैं भी जिंदा रहूँ. I'll keep cutting cakes with Swamiji and Doji inviting me and more fake news. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Wow, it's such a joy. And this is a holy place, Tibet House, which is a culture center of His Holiness, founded by him, so ably looked by Doji. All of you so often come here. So this is a holy place, and today we have holy people gathered around me. May His Holiness live long and healthy, and may all his dreams for Tibet, for the world, for everything he aspires. That's why we're here. Yes. And this cake thing, I was wondering if Desmond Tutu, his old friend, could have been alive. Yes. I don't know whether you've seen them in action. He'd be pulling his beard and he'd be rubbing his scalp. And they would be, putting cakes into the mouth or in each other's noses. Because the sense of humor that His Holiness has. Because he's whole. What does holy mean? To be whole, to be wholesome, not to be fragmented, not to be schizophrenic, with fragmentary minds, heart saying something, mind saying something, body saying something, one nation versus another. Inclusive, not fractions. The word integrity means to be integrated. Yes, integer versus fraction. So if you have integrity, meaning you're a whole, holy, not divided. That's what His Holiness is. So he's just like a child. He's not childish, but he's childlike. Yes, there's a great difference between being childish and being childlike. He's greatly mature, but he's childlike. And I believe in the Bible somewhere it says, unless you're like a child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. The truth that he espouses, and that's why I think people are here from every religion. I think the truth, as was mentioned by Tenzin and Doji, is the same. All roads lead to Rome. Yes, that can be expressed in different ways. Yes, so the truth might be called Shunyata in Buddhism. It might be called Brahman in Hinduism. It might be called God and the Savior in Allah. In the it is expressed through different ways. It's the same truth, obviously. Yes, it's the same truth. So. And I think India as a country realized this very early on. I think that's the genius of India. Right? What makes us distinctive from many other nations in the world? Because we recognize that behind the appearances, with the various forms, there's interdependence. All forms are transient. But there's a spirit, there's an essence, which is eternal, which is the real us. So we're beyond the body and the mind. We might call it by either name. And only when we established in that, in the spirit, the eternal, beyond the transient, beyond the body and the mind, are we happy? Are we free from suffering? Are we ashok? So as long as we identify it, we think this is it, we must take care of this. But if we think this is it, and we'll die, and we are not eternal, then we're always fearful. And fear is the root of all trouble. All misery begins with fear. I think the ego, which is the little self, is essentially protecting us from so-called dangers we imagine, because we think we're just flesh and blood. But if we think we are eternal, we've always been here, we've had birthday after birthday. In fact, Buddhism claims you've never had birth. Yes? It's timeless. The Buddha is timeless. All of us are timeless. So this is a play of form. We are the timeless, and yet we cut cakes every year. And if we can live with that, yes, the conventional truth and the ultimate truth, yes, conventional truth, we are all here, we'll have a chat. I sometimes wonder why we meet for such gatherings, or because the truth is the truth. Yes, so why make such a hue and cry out of it? We all know the truth. Yeah, why do we meet? Why do we celebrate? Yeah, because the truth has to be celebrated. नहीं तो eternity में क्या करेंगे बाबा? Eternity है, फिर क्या करेंगे? So Rabindranath Tagore once asked, why do birds chirp every morning? And why do they chirp every sunset? Yes, he asked this question. They get up with a song in their heart, then they do the little thing, pick up whatever little grain. In spring they might make a little nest. And in the evening, every evening they chirp again. All these trees, I'm sure in the morning will be alive with song, and in the evening alive with song. And he asked, why do humans don't get up with a song in their heart? And why don't they sleep with a song in their heart? So, itne so-called advanced, materialism, buildings, and then the little trees. And he said, why do they do it every day? Every day the same sun, same morning. Monotony ho jaye na, boredom ho jaye. Social media mein koi nayi cheez chahiye roz. So again, because he said, for them every morning is a new morning. They live in the timeless. Eternity is not long periods of time. Eternity is no time, timeless. We only live in the now. So they get up in the morning, they've forgotten the past, the sun is out, chirp. Do your little things. Thank God, we've had a grain, gratitude, chirp, song. So it's timeless. A cake every single year for eternity. His Holiness has been always there. He will always be there. But in this little world bound by time, may he achieve all that he wishes to achieve in this drama that's going on. Yes, and I'm so delighted that we have such wonderful people here. And thanks to Doji in Tibet House, but above all, blessings of His Holiness. So I won't take any more time. I'm most humble. I don't deserve to be here, but since you've called me, but I'm glad I'm here to listen to everybody. So we will now listen to perspectives of each from each religion, and the topic is universal ethics and responsibility, challenges and solutions. And as Doji was pointing out, firstly, is there something common in ethics which is non-partisan, which is therefore universal? What are ethics? And therefore, what is our responsibility? And practical. He mentioned His Holiness is so practical, and that's why we had a cake. Yes, and not just chanting. And what holds you back? Why you're not free? Why you're not light in the heart? Why don't we have a song in the heart? And as you talk, yes, and then if you read texts, yes. So one of the texts there is from in our course is Swami Vivekananda's works. His Holiness book, Ethics for the Whole World, I think that's what it's called. Ethics for the New Millennium. Beyond Religion is another text we're using for that course. And then all the great Sufi saints and the poems of Rumi. So, and I'm sure we'll hear from other perspectives. We celebrate with a million voices. So much, if you hear an orchestra, I'm going to stop. If you see an orchestra, there are millions of instruments. There's violin, there's drums, there's piano. In Indian case, we'll have other instruments. If they're out of sync, it's noise. If they are in sync, it's music. So harmony is music and conflict is noise. The same instruments. So it's a universe, not a multiverse. This is a universe, all in sync, right? Universe. This is a cosmos, not a chaos. The word cosmos in Greek means order, harmony. Chaos means disorder. We have both potentials. We've been given this opportunity. I asked once His Holiness that are we born pure? Or are we born neutral? And I know he said it on many occasions that, we are potential Buddhas, we have Buddha nature, but he looked at me and he said, we are born neutral. because he was putting the responsibility on me. I was trying to find an easy way out. मैं तो pure हूँ ही. We are born neutral. Choose. You can become a god. You can become a demigod. You can become a Buddha. So with that, I invite all our great scholars to talk about this question, universal ethics, responsibility, and challenging solutions. Time, I talked about eternity, but time is a constraint. So 10 minutes is what is allocated to all of us. And I'm sure 10 minutes you can condense it into, I'm sure all of you can condense all your philosophy into 10 minutes. So without further ado, first I like to call Swami Sarv Alok Anand to speak on this topic from the perspective of Hinduism. Swamiji.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mityorma Amritagamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O God, lead us from unreal to real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. This is the prayer we find in the Hindu scriptures. I must say, this prayer we must do every day in the time of difficulties. His Holiness Director, Tibet House, an esteemed representative of different religions present here. All of you know the subject which we are going to discuss today. Universal ethics are those ethical principles that are based on shared human values. It reaffirms our commitment to help in building a better world where peace, freedom, responsibility, justice, humanity, and morality prevail. In fact, respect for dignity of people and mutual respect towards all are the most fundamental and universally found ethical principle across geographical and cultural boundaries. If we are talking about the challenges in today's world, the selfishness, religious intolerance, violence, and justice threats these above principles of universal ethics. Swami Vivekananda delivered wonderful lecture in the Parliament of Religions in the city of Chicago in America. There he said very clearly the great challenges. He said, sectarianism, bigotry, and its horrible descendant, the fanaticism, have long possessed this beautiful earth. They have filled the earth with violence, drenched it often and often with human blood, destroyed the civilization, and sent the whole nation to despair. Had it not been for these horrible demons, human society would be far more advanced than it is now. Dear friends, the solutions, we are talking about the solutions in the Hindus' perspective or Hinduism perspective. The Hinduism preaches that Hindu religion, which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal tolerance, but we accept all religions are true. Dear friends, not only today, but from time immemorial we can say there is a disharmony of religion, and as a result, unnecessary mass killing and bloodshed. All religions are true. It is experienced by Sri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, the teacher, guru of Swami Vivekananda. He practiced Hinduism, he practiced Islam, he practiced Buddhism, he practiced Christianity, and he came to the conclusion and he realized that all religions are true, leading to the same goal. Dear friends, unnecessarily we are fighting with each other to establish our supremacy over other religion is useless. Vedanta, the Hindu philosophy, the great Hindu philosophy Vedanta, teaches us the oneness of unity of existence of God, man, nature, and oneness of matter and energy. The divinity of soul, harmony of all religions, unity in diversity. Dear friends, somebody was talking, most probably Vivek ji. Vivek ji was telling that there must be peace and harmony in this turmoil world, and how we can get rid of these differences. Our Vedanta teaches that we are all divine. You are divine, I am divine, everybody is divine. If everybody is divine, then where is the difference? We create such differences. That was Swami Vivekananda was telling. The differences we see, it is only outwardly difference. But that is why Swamiji again said, Swami Vivekananda, difference is only in degree, but not in kind. So dear friends, if everybody is divine, whom to hate, whom to love, whom to discard, whom to hurt. Because if you hurt anybody else, automatically you are hurting yourself. This is the Vedanta, the teaching of Vedanta. Dear friends, our director, Honorable Director, His Holiness, he was talking that exclusiveness and inclusiveness in the same thing we find in our Hindu scriptures. That is Hidopadisa. Ayang nijo parobeti ganana laguchetasam udara charitang tu vasidhi vacha kutumbakam. It's a wonderful idea of oneness. This is mine, that is his, say small-minded people. The wise believe that entire world is a family. Vasudhaiva vacha kutumbakam. We find in the hoarding, here and there, G20, the Vasudhaiva vacha kutumbakam is one family. Then there will be no problem. Following from the above, as per Vedanta dictum, when every one of us potentially divine in nature, how we can act against them and cause harm. Vedanta teaches us universal brotherhood amongst all people and acceptance of all religions as true, leading to the same ultimate reality. Vedanta has always been fighting against any form of discrimination, superstition, and ritualistic practices. It has always stood for uniting mankind. Today, rituals have taken over the philosophies of all religions in the world. The essence of spirituality, the real wisdom, has taken a back seat. Once we understand our true nature, which is nothing but divine, we shall be able to respect one and all. Swami Vivekananda said in the closing session of the great Parliament of Religions in Chicago, you must remember this. He said, I pity from the bottom of my heart and point out to him that upon the banner of every religion will soon be written, in spite of resistance, help and not fight. Assimilation not destruction. Harmony and peace, not dissension. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Swamiji.
टाइम तो था 10 मिनट था, अब 10 मिनट में मैंने समाप्त कर दिया. अगर हम 2-4 मिनट और बोलता, जब हमें मिलता तो और भी हम बोल सकते हो. Anyway, that doesn't matter. Now next speaker.
Thank you, Swamiji. I think if in one line we have to take away your message is we are all divine. We are all divine. Can you believe that? If we believe that truly and live it, sir, then we are truly acting as divine. And then where are the fights and where are the struggles and where is the Ukraine war? Thank you, sir. From the perspective of Judaism now, Dr. Rabbi Ezekiel Isaac Malika, priest of Judah Hayam Synagogue in New Delhi.
Shalom. At the outset, I would like to blessings and for his long life, the blessings in Hebrew. Mizmor Meshebera Kabuteno Abraham Isaac ve Yaakov U Moshe ve Aaron U David u Shalomo Hu Yabarek et Kebot His Holiness Dalai Lama Malka de Alma Hu Yabarek Yate Amen Vajake Yate Amen Vaishma Bekol Selote Amen Vekeni Rason Vinumar Amen Ibareka Dona Vaishmereka Yaira Dona Pana Vileka Uneka Esadana Pana Vyasam Leka Shalom. May God shower upon His Holiness Dalai Lama His choicest blessings for harmonious, for peaceful, successful, healthiest and long 120 years of life. And we pray to Almighty that His long cherished dream of free Tibet come true very soon. Let us say Amen. I remember when His Holiness Dalai Lama came to synagogue, and that time he asked me that first of all give me the cap of the same color. He was wearing that. Of course, as you rightly said, when I said Shalom, he did not reply by saying Shalom. He hit my head. And then he said, give me the same cap. So unfortunately, I had the same cap of the same color. And I gave it to him. And then after wearing it, he said, now you say the blessings. When I started saying the blessing, I seen you. That when you say the blessing, you keep your hand on that person's head. Sir, how can I keep Dalai Lama ji? You are the God for the Tibetans. Here you are my God. You know, that's so much of humility, humbleness. What is the universal ethics? That is so much, humbleness. And he was there, and he has seen the Torah and everything. So I'm very fortunate. Now in the we had that tree plantation ceremony, and I remember that in Judaism we have this ceremony called Tu B'Shivat. We celebrate the birthday of the trees. And Israel's population is just 9 million. And out of 9 millions, at least 5 million people will go and plant that plantation on that day. You know, and that is very, very important. We celebrate on that day. So this is what I wanted to tell. And about the Judaism, as you know, that our holy scripture is Torah. Torah is the first 5 books of the Bible, Old Testament. And that, when God created human being, He created Adam in His own image and likeness. And how is God? God is merciful, God is compassionate, God is slow to anger, abundance in love, tolerance, forgiveness. And when God has created all of us in His own image, we have those attributes, we have those manifestations. So Dalai Lama ji, His Holiness used to tell, when we have been created in the God's image and likeness, why not we follow in our day-to-day life? And about the Torah, someone asked Rabbi Hillel, will you kindly tell me the Torah in one sentence? And Rabbi Hillel said, what is hateful and hurtful to you, do not do to others. One is by action, one is by the words. क्योंकि हमारा जो मुख है वो ब्रह्मांड है और हमारे शब्द है वो ब्रह्मास्त्र है. So when you use the words, be careful. If you are not able to appreciate others, do not say bad words for others. Then about the 10 commandments, we have the 10 commandments. First 5 commandments, I am the Lord your God, thou shalt have no other God before you. Then thou shalt not take the name of God in vain. Thou shalt follow Shabbat. Thou shalt honor thy father and mother. The first 5 commandments are your obligations, duties towards God. But next 5 commandments, 6 to 10, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not stand false witness, thou shalt not covet. These are your obligations, responsibilities towards the society. Oh, she has already given me. So, 11th commandment. Yeah, it's a 11th commandment. That's the prevailing commandment. Yeah. Okay. So I think what I would like to say that of course in Judaism the thou shalt love thy neighbor. But before that I wanted to tell that according to Judaism that the universal ethics are based on the human dignity. Like our Article 21, because I'm a lawyer myself, so I'm emphasizing Article 21. And secondly, as you rightly said, we want the holistic education. At the school level and college level, we want the moral, ethical education, about the human rights education. And what His Holiness used to say, that loving kindness is the core ethical value which is closely linked with the compassion. And he said that we have the same potential for construction and destruction. He said fear, jealousy, anger, frustration, envy ultimately bring destruction, destructive action, both the physical and verbal. He said the seed of compassion is in each and every individual. Now I have composed a little poem on this occasion. The title of my poem is Call to Compassion and Justice. Compassion and justice everyone shall pursue. You shall not pervert judgment. You will nor favor person, neither shall you take a bribe, for a bribe blinds the eyes of the wise and perverts the words of the righteous. Hear the causes between brothers. You shall hear the small and great alike. You shall not be afraid of the face of any man. Rob not the weak, because he is weak, neither crush the poor. Seek compassion and justice. Relieve the oppressed. Protect the orphans. Defend the cause of the widows. Seek good and not evil. Hate evil and not what is good. Establish compassion and justice. Violence shall no more be heard, neither desolation nor destruction with your brothers. Your righteousness shall go before you. The glory of the God shall be your protection. And at the end, what His Holiness Dalai Lama, his favorite prayer, and now as long as space endures, as long as there are beings to be found, may I continue likewise to remain, to drive away the sorrows of the world. Let us say Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Malikar, and befitting Shanti Deva's prayer in the end. God made man in his own image. Yes, do unto others what you wish to be done to you. And compassion. So, thank you. Absolutely, thank you. Can I now invite, from the perspective of Islam, Dr. Khwaja Iftikhar Ahmed, Founder, President, Interfaith Harmony Foundation of India. Sir.
Thank you very much, sir. First of all, I would like to join my predecessors in expressing their prayers for the long life of His Holiness Dalai Lama. I also join both of them, perhaps the rest of them also, because knowing them well, knowing their views also on this particular subject well, I can say that we all join in most of the things. Number one, there is no difference whatsoever as far as divine and the divinity is concerned. The whole world, all faith traditions are absolutely on the same page as far as the divinity is concerned. I do not know any faith tradition which speaks of or advocates conflict or war or hatred or enmity or division or divisiveness. But I'm sorry to say, the fact of the matter is, we have all this on ground. The subject that you have kept for today is on ethics and morality, but the larger question which you have put is the challenges ahead. And the implied part of it is there a resolution or a solution? So instead of going into what has been said in Holy Quran and what has been said by the Prophet, in the world of communication, everything is on your tips. So instead of going into the repetition of that, I would like to come straight away to the solution. Each of the faith tradition has certain fundamentals. And fundamentals, it is an area where compromise, accommodation, or assimilation, or integration is not easy to approach. Because there is an element of rigidity. And nobody wants to abandon anything of their own. Let us accept that this is a ground, hardcore reality. The larger reality, to my mind, is, as far as ethics are concerned, universal human values are concerned, and picking up our threads from the divinity, I think there is sufficient amount of ground to be together and to work for togetherness and to stay together. Unfortunately so, the energy of the best of minds in the world is going into how to sustain conflict. I'm sorry to say that. How to sustain conflict, whereas where the energy should have gone. How to resolve the conflict. If everybody is same, and everybody's destiny is same, eternity is same, the goal of life is same, our aspirations are same, our anxieties and our frustrations are same, then what is it which stops us to be together? Is there a rocket science to all this? Such a simple thing, but such a difficult thing to achieve. So I would like to put two things together. Number one, as far as the fundamental core of each faith tradition is concerned, let us keep no hostility zone for the fundamentals. And the core to that is stop claiming and proclaiming that you are the ultimate, you are the superior, rest are not. Stop this debate. Accept everybody as you are and as I am. So that's my point number one. Point number two, which I would like to focus on, because we are trying to find out solutions. Universal human values. I call them universal spiritual values, because the spirit of divinity is within us, within our body, within our soul, within ourselves. So what we hold within, and that's being absolutely common, I think that gives us enough amount of ground to work for togetherness and to be together. And here, whether it is Islam or it is any other faith tradition, I think there is enough ground for that. To conclude, I would like to say that religion. Why to talk of Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or this tradition or that tradition? Let us talk about religion. What is the role of religion? I think the role of religion is a one-line role. And that role is stand with the righteousness. And I think our conscience can see the difference, see the distinction between the right and the wrong. Lastly, I would like to offer two quotes to you, because we have to have some example that we need to follow. And from Quran, I share a verse. And this is Quran, chapter 29, the verse 46. Righteousness is not in turning your faces towards the east or the west. Rather, the righteous are those who believe in the Creator, the last day, the angels, the books, not the book. Be very clear on this. The books and the prophets, not the prophet. The prophets. Who give charity out of their cherished wealth to relatives, orphans, the poor, needy, travelers, beggars, or for freeing captives, who establish prayer, keep the pledges they make, and who are patient in times of suffering, adversity, and the heat of battle. This is what Quran stands for. Coming to the life of Prophet Muhammad, in Makkah, the amount of cruelty subjected to him is unparalleled. To the same man who up to the age of 40 years is the most favored and the most favorite character. He has to literally find a clandestine way to run off Makkah and to find refuge in Medina, where he lives for 13 long years in exile. And those who have been responsible for his shifting from Makkah to Medina, he comes back as a victor with 10,000 strong army. He enters the city of Makkah. His head is not up. His head is like this. And he forgives everybody, even the one, Abu Sufyan, who killed, I'm winding up, who killed his nearest and dearest uncle, and his wife cut the body, the liver, the heart, every part of the body into pieces and pieces and pieces. He forgives that. To close, if divinity is common, let forgiveness be also be common. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Khwaja. I think that was... And Tenzin, you have an unenviable task. I commend you for what you're doing. It takes courage. And that was really powerful. And the passage from the Quran was absolutely brilliant. And as you mentioned, I've heard His Holiness, when asked, what is your religion, just say, my religion is kindness. And one of his books is called Beyond Religion, Ethics for the Whole World. And much of what you were expressing there is also encapsulated. And that was really powerful. Can I also request that perhaps one of the themes that you touched, the other panelists, when they speak, I'm sure you have something in mind, but the practical problem, because Holiness is practical, and Dojini was mentioning this. So if Tekaji mentioned this, yes, in theory, yes, all religions and all books say this. What do we do in practice? In practice, in the real world, in our classrooms, in our communities, Often people do not behave in ethical fashion. So while this is so simple, but yet we overlook the simple. Maybe our minds are too complex. Our hearts are simple, our minds are complex. We all live from the mind, we don't live from the heart. And maybe that's the problem. I remember one couplet, I don't know which ghazal this is. कौन कहता है मोहब्बत की जुबान होती है, ये हकीकत तो नजरों से बयां होती है. Who says that love has a language? This language is the language of the eye, the gaze, and the gaze is actually from the heart. So maybe take that challenge up. What do we actually do, apart from all the wonderful things I'm sure you will say? So thank you, sir. Now from the perspective of Christianity. Okay. Everybody's been speaking about the perspective of Christianity. So, yeah. Okay. From the perspective of Sikhism then. Sorry. Yes. From the perspective of Sikhism, Professor Amrit Kaur Basra, who's at the Department of History from Delhi College of Arts and Commerce, which is part of the same university that I am. Ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir. Today is really a very blessed day for all of us because we are celebrating His Holiness 40th Dalai Lama 88th birthday. We all have been blessed. We have read his teaching. We have also met him also. I also had an opportunity to meet him twice in Delhi University and one at Bhai Veer Singh Sahitya Sadan. So his compassion, his ability to go beyond existing trauma is something which is to be emulated and practiced by all of us. Since I'm going to speak from the perspective of Sikhism, as sir has pointed out that everything is available on internet, I'll very briefly talk about Sikhism. It was founded by Guru Nanak. And he, during his lifetime, he clearly gave the message there is one God and one humanity. And he also pointed out there was no discrimination. He gave us a kind of, you can say, a notion or a practical solution when he traveled to distant parts of India and beyond it, traveled for more than 33,000 kilometers, as they were called udasis, interacted with people, and then of course since identity is an important issue, physicality cannot be negated, so he was also asked whether Hindu bada ke Musalman, and Nanak said, Shubh karma bajo dono roy. If good deeds were not being done, then all were bound to kind of, you can say, cry about it. This is one important issue, and I can say that Sikhism is a religion of practice. So those who are learner and those who believe in one God, one humanity, and as Guru Nanak also during his lifetime saw that how oppression was going on. So this is our responsibility to speak against atrocities and be willing to die or to sacrifice our lives so that morality, oneness of humanity can be upholded. There's another very important thing as it is said in Gurbani, you know that Guru Granth Sahib is Guru Eternal, and it has Bani not only from 5 gurus, 6 gurus, but also from Bhagat Bani there, and then the Sufi saints Bani is also being there. It is being pointed out that jab lag duniya rahi hai Nanak, kich suniye, kich kahiye. So as long as the world exists, we have to first listen and then say something. So this is the basic principle which I feel that one can kind of bring communities together. We are part of global village now, local village rather. ICT has connected us. So if we are in position to strengthen community, and as Sikhism has the 3 basic tenets, Naam Japna, which means that God divine has to remember. We have to earn in righteous way, Kirat Karni, and Vand Chakna, and it has to be shared with everyone. So what I feel that since we are looking for solution, challenges are many, and the important thing is that we should reach out to each other, and we should not make it appear as if we are the only one who can reach out to you, or we are the only one who are kind of provide solution. So that is something which is negative in itself. So what can be done if you're looking for one harmonious community, one universe, then one has to start at individual level first. And in Gurbani it is repeatedly pointed out that one should be rejecting ego, lust, greed, anger, attachment. So truthful way of living is essential. And this concept of Sangat and Pangat. So that's the equality. We must serve each other. We must help them. Physical trauma, physicality, and the you can say when one is devoid of resources, that is also very much important thing. So this physical self has also to be nurtured. And divine self or the inner self can be nurtured once physical self is in a state of happiness for that matter. So Pangat, which is popularly known as Langar, so that is something which, whether we are of course full of vices, if one is to talk about community per se, but nevertheless this is one institution which is truly universal, which has crossed boundaries, which in times of turbulence, whether it is Iran or any other parts of the, you can say, world, reached out to community which are being threatened in the name of, you can say, one community. So nationality, nation is something which cannot be negated, which cannot be rejected also. So we should be, as Sikhism pointed out, and from the martyrdom of Guru Arjan Dev Ji, Shahadat, one can say that the tradition needs to continue. So ability to strengthen communities, ability to reach out each other, ability to be on the self-corrective path always. So if, as it is being repeatedly pointed out, and we are part of, you can say, teaching fraternity, so if I am as a teacher is unethical in my behavior, so your parallel line of, you can say, argument and positioning going on, so we need not be pretending, we should be kind of practicing what we are professing. And here one can say that since Sikhism and all religion profess, they said they believe in gender equality, so Sikhism practice it also. And then defects are there over the period of time. What religion says and what we say is the religion. There is a kind of, you can say, dichotomy here. And within, as a Sikh community, one can say that coming from inside, there are, you can say, lots of problems are existing there. But then within the community, there is a mechanism where these are kind of, you can say, exposed. So once at individual level, at community level, we are on self-corrective path and we are kind of, you can say, shunning egoism and we are willing to help each other, then definitely nations' boundaries can be transcended. We cannot feel happy about the fact that only my nation should strive and thrive and others can be at the receiving end. So at the end of the day, as it happens that it is not human beings whose number is increasing tremendously. Now we are the most populated nation, but ecology is more important. And in Sikhism also, there is equal emphasis on ecology. It is being, in Japji Sahib, it is being pointed out, Pavan Guru Pani Pita. And there is a kind of shining examples where communities have taken initiative and cleaned rivers, why river in particular. So these have been cleaned. So efforts can be made, success will come to us. And again, I feel that since we have the divine, His Holiness is with us and His teachings are with us, so we'll learn from each other. And Guru Nanak repeatedly pointed out that one needs to be true to basic religious philosophy. Instead of indulging in an argument that who is going to be superior, in that sense, not much can be achieved. So I feel that from the perspective of Sikhism, as we are caught up with too many problems, and you have been reading what is happening in France and what Sikhs are doing in many parts of, you can say, world presently, this is a kind of, you can say, pressure comes from outside. So that becomes a kind of, you can say, negation of the existing practices. But we need to be on this self-corrective path. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Your very mool mantra says it all, isn't it? Ek Omkar Satnam. And then you can call it Brahman or all are God's children or Shunyata. Ek Omkar Satnam. And I also remember, I think that is from Guru Nanak's Vani. Ek Noor se sab jag upjya, kaun bhale, kaun mande. Everything comes from one light. Yes, so who is good and who's bad? Forgiveness, we can self-correct. And what has always struck me whenever I go to Gurdwara is the seva bhav, service, which again His Holiness often talks about. Put it in action. So people, if you go to Gurdwara, they'll be picking up your slippers, they'll be wearing langar, and whoever goes there never comes back hungry. So put it into practice, not just words, not just rituals. So thank you. What a brilliant country we are. Absolutely brilliant. And thanks to His Holiness, we're having this wonderful conversation. And thanks to Doji. May His Holiness live forever. Yes? Yes, absolutely. He's always there for us. 1,200,000,000 years. So now from the perspective of Baha'i, Dr. A.K. Merchant, General Secretary, Temple of Understanding India Foundation. Sir.
First of all, my humble pranams. We are met on a very auspicious day, 8th of July. On the 6th of July. 8 I got mixed up with another date. 6th of July, indeed. This is the 88th birthday celebrations, and I'm very grateful to the Tibet House that they have decided that instead of just a few prayers and greetings, that we should have something, a meaningful discussion. And after having heard all of the distinguished religious representatives, leaders, and all the audience here who have participated, and thanks also to Venerable Geje for his very profound introductory remarks also made at the time when we planted the saplings. So we are living in the 21st century, and while we do have a historical baggage of many, many thousands of years of human behavior, human achievements, march of civilization, creation of institutions, laws, and many wonderful things, all of this, the creation that we see is an endowment of the human being, the soul, the mind, the power to imagine, to reflect, the language to preserve our achievements. But when we talk about today's reality, what we need, and then since every time we hear His Holiness, he talks about the world condition. He talks about the societal collapse. So we need a prototype. Is it possible for the human race to create a new prototype? Because based on the existing knowledge or the past, I don't think we can march ahead. And great scientists like Albert Einstein have said that if you want to solve a particular problem and if you remain at the same level of the problem, you aren't going to get anywhere. So the Baha'i teachings talk about a new prototype, a new way we need to organize life on this planet. So we need to look at the three protagonists that constitute the society. The individuals. What are these individuals? What kind of information is constantly bombarding them? And why they are constantly degrading, going downhill, rather than becoming great sages and seers? Because Swami Vivekananda himself analyzed, a human being can become a saint and also at the same time can become a brute. So what are we doing to our children? The second is the institutions. There is a complete collapse in most of the institutions. We make, every time we have summit gatherings, declarations, documents emerge. We all know that we have the Sustainable Development Goals in our hands, which was crafted as a result of prolonged consultation by the civil society, United Nations institutions and its agencies, the various governments, and all the 93 member states. There are 193 member states out of the 196 nation states who have endorsed it. So if you have such a wonderful document to which you have pledged allegiance, you are not willing to follow it. So something is wrong. And this was reiterated again on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations establishment in 2020 with the common agenda, in which they reduced the 17 to 12 and starting with the last man. So today when I look for a prototype, I know there is going to be a tremendous struggle. We may talk about the wonderful things that the saints and prophets and the avatars or the Tathagats, the Tirthankars, the Paigambars may have contributed and left to posterity. But today's human being needs a new kind of prototype. Why are governments not functioning? With a global GDP of $110 trillion, with the United States alone having $26 trillion GDP, and China having a $20 trillion GDP, and the rest of the world I can give you all of that data because it's my interest. So I'm trying to search for a prototype, and I can give you an example. If you were to remove the security at the metro stations of New Delhi, even for one day, the next day you come and see what happens. No policeman will go to control the traffic in a place like Govindpuri, Harkesh Nagar, Kalkaji, or those suburban areas. If they do that, they'll be killed, they'll be beaten up. They'll only come to these posh areas, and they know where all these SUVs and the big cars go. So sometimes they even play with the signals. For some time, the left will be made free. Then suddenly, a few days later, you'll see there is a board, and you think that the left one turn was free, but now suddenly the cop is standing there. So they know how to get along with their lives. So friends, in personal terms, love and forgiveness. I love you, and I'm willing to forgive any faults or any wrong thing that you may do to me, just as His Holiness has done. He was asked that, do you hate the Chinese people? He said, no. I pray for them. I pray that they may overcome their ignorance. They may overcome their prejudices, their anger, their distorted mindset. And if we also do that, so he is a good example at the individual level. But again, the challenge, not only before the Tibetan community, but the whole world, is we have not been able to create a prototype. And to this end, Baha'u'llah said that since the existing world order is flawed, my last sentence, we need to think of a new world order. And he has given a blueprint. So at the Baha'i Lotus Temple, thousands of people come. They mostly come largely as tourists. They find the silence. They find the nice, beautiful, elegant greenery, spend a few minutes and go away. But some people stay back and ask questions. So we have a discussion and we share a bit of the Baha'i teachings. Since limitation of time is there, and I had written down my paper on this universal ethics, particularly the responsibility, the challenges, the solutions, I think the human being has that capacity. If we raise the capacities of our children in that holistic manner, surely a prototype will emerge and a new civilization will become possible. Once again, my humble salutations and obeisance to His Holiness on his 88th birth celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Merchant. Indeed, people go to Lotus Temple when they come to Delhi. It's a beautiful place, and I've often wondered why the lotus, rather than say the rose, is the sacred flower in Baha'i, in Buddhism, in Hinduism. The rose smells beautiful, and the Shakespeare is full of roses. But in India, the lotus is also fragrant. Why? Because it transforms mud into fragrance. That's where it grows. It doesn't grow it grows in mud, and it transforms mud into flower. And you mentioned forgiveness. Sir mentioned forgiveness. Of course, Jesus on the cross, his last words were, just imagine, someone is on the cross. Forgive them, Lord, for they do not know what they do. Wow. You prick a pin into me and I'll, difficult to forgive. I hope I can. You are on a cross. Yes, forgiveness. Lotuses. So absolutely brilliant, sir. Thank you. We move on then from one of the oldest religions in the world. And India welcomed, and thank God we welcomed. From the perspective of Zoroastrianism, Dr. Shahnaz Kama. And ma'am, does Shahnaz mean anything? It's such a beautiful name. Perhaps you can explain that.
Later.
And that's again from the University of Delhi, Lady Shri Ram College.
Thank you. Gajwe Dorji, Chairperson, Professor Suneja, and very dear friends. Thank you for this opportunity for being here. It seems just yesterday, though actually I was calculating it was almost 30 years ago, that this same group met on the 6th of July with His Holiness present with us just across the road. and we really planted the trees. And His Holiness, it was my first actual personal meeting with the Dalai Lama, and at the Pirojsha Godrej Center. And it was such a happy day with the Dalai Lama joking and teasing and saying, see, we've all become Malis. Do you all remember? We were all there together. We were all there together. Dr. Merchant, Rabbi Malikar, Khwaja Ahmad, we were all there together. Oh, I wish those happy times were still here. The world has changed a lot. Universal ethics and responsibilities, as Dr. Merchant said, lie behind the creation of UNESCO, the UN, the Alliance of Religion and Conservation by Prince Philip, etc., etc. What's gone wrong? Why are we in this mess? And we are in a mess. From the Zoroastrian perspective, the Zoroastrian or the Parsi, as we are commonly known in India, we all believe, as we've all discussed, in the same compassion, the same caritas, the same forgiveness, etc., and the same concern for life in all its forms. But there's one difference in the Zoroastrian approach, and because we are so little known, I'm going to explain it a little bit to you. And if that little slip comes, I'm going to put it aside. I won't talk for long. The thing is that the Zoroastrian approaches life as a soldier of truth, to battle for the truth and for the good, actively against the forces of pollution of mind and body, the earth, the water, the skies, the cosmos itself. Each part of the creation of Ahura Mazda, our name for God is Ahura Mazda, Lord of Light and Wisdom. Each aspect of this world, this creation, is sacred or spenta or holy. The earth we walk upon, the stone we carelessly push aside with our feet, have the life force of Spenta Almighty, this guardian earth of ours. If you have deliberately injured one leaf or a branch, at the time of the judgment, each plant, says the book of creation, the Bundaishan, will stand up and bear witness against you. We are all a part of nature. We are never apart, A-P-A-R-T, from nature. Therefore, our ethical behavior and our responsibility is to all forces, seen and unseen. I think that is why I personally and we as a faith we are refugees. When I think of the Syrian refugees and I see them at Cambridge, where I'm going shortly, I think of how we came here. I think of how, and I've discussed this with His Holiness, of how the Tibetans came here and how this country once welcomed us all. The point is, we therefore cannot accept wars and genocide still going on. In Rwanda, in Syria, we are killing and maiming children. In Lebanon, in the Ukraine, you are from there. And closer to home, right here in Tibet, in Kashmir, in Manipur as we speak, we cannot and must not brush aside lynchings wherever they may be, or school shootings wherever they may be. A rickshaw driver, I'm very affected by it. I know I've spoken about it when we were talking at tea. A rickshaw driver drowning in his own automobile in this great city in the first rains. Come on. This is part of a corrupt world system where a few thrive at the cost of the rest. Today, the Maldives are sinking. If you've read the newspapers, this has been the hottest week ever on earth. And 3rd of July, yeah. And as polar ice melts, as the Maldives go down, as polar bears starve, we have to act, because we are soldiers of truth. We are those who act. We act not with weapons of destruction, but with the power of wisdom. How are we called soldiers of truth? There's a metaphor behind it. As I speak, I am wearing underneath a shudre, or a white muslin shirt with a little pocket of good deeds right over here, over my heart. And that is to point me to the right road. And I'm wearing around my waist a kasti, like the Janoi. A kasti is a direction finder. It gives us the right direction in which to move. And that is towards Humata Hukta Hurvarashta, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Cyrus of the Achaemenid Empire is called 536, around 536 BC. That's why it's the world's oldest religion. And he was, Zarathustra is in the Bronze Age. 1600 BC. Cyrus is called the Great in history not because he created the world's largest empire from China to the Mediterranean. It was a multicultural empire, but because he united people to improve the world, to bring water to places under the Qanat and the Kharis systems. He protected the Jews in exile, and he rebuilt the temple. Yes, and that is why he's the only non-Semite to be called the Lord's anointed in Isaiah 40. Darius' his successor in the Naqi-Rustam, a beautiful inscription, which I will not read out as I'd planned to because it should be better known, ultimately says, what is right, that is my desire. Now I'm coming to what Professor Suneja asked for. How do we find solutions? I'm going to be a good teacher and try and push this down your throats. First of all, I think all of us need to speak against violence in one voice, with one voice. We will find strength in numbers. We have His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Nobel Prize laureate. We have the Temple of Understanding secretary who, for years and years, at my side. We have the ARC. Each country today, and especially you young people whom I teach, are so concerned with the hatred and with self-hatred. What has COVID shown me when I've gone back to college is how much self-harm you young people are doing against yourselves. It's horrible to watch. It's painful to watch. And the other thing is what I feel very deeply about. The saddest for me is the hate and violence in this Guldasta of Iqbal, this country of ours, the largest democracy, and the hate and the violence and the murders and the racial violence in the home of democracy. What else can we do? Support civil rights groups. The greatest peace I found in Delhi in many, many years was sitting during the CAA protests, sitting on the ground and listening to the songs at night, in the rain, outside Jamia. I think that was the one time I found peace in Delhi after many, many years. So support help legal bodies. If you're a lawyer, help. And please let us all insist on that UN Charter of Human Rights, which we keep talking about and never follow. When churches and mosques are burnt as they are being burnt right now, when Dalits are attacked, we must all unite to condemn this, not wait till our homes catch fire and our people die. Remember that religion, philosophy, and literature, which I teach, says and has always said what physics is now proving: there is no other. We are all one being. Please do watch Carl Sagan and that little clip of the Earth receding as the Voyager goes further and further. It's absolutely brilliant. It's on my phone and I keep watching it. It's a blue pale dot. You young people are less cynical, but you are also easily swayed. I would really encourage you to not just work together, to really plant trees with your hands and fingers getting dirty, but go to each other's houses. I grew up in an army family where there was no agyari anywhere within 5,000 miles of where we were. We go and eat in each other's houses. Not this nonsense that I will not touch your food and you mustn't have this in your fridge. What nonsense is this? Above all, enjoy that diversity which our generation grew up with. We were so proud of our country for its diversity and for its protection of diversity. This is how we can demolish otherness. The greatest votary of peace alive today is His Holiness, and I request him and the Cultural Center, which has the power of millions of people across the world from Richard Gere downwards, to help by speaking out and with us all. We are all friends here. The other very practical thing is that you all have in this foundation, you have a wonderful program online and a wonderful teaching program. Share your template with all of us, because that would really help so that each one of us can create similar community programs and outreach programs to understand what is universal human values, to understand what is true diversity and respect. And that if you could do, and your open online courses are wonderful, we're trying to copy that. Let us link each website. Let us share even today's YouTube, which was on your channel. Let me share it. Let Dr. Merchant share it. Let Rabbi share it. Let everybody share it. So that if it's out on all platforms, it will at least stop that terrible hate messaging, which is right now constantly going viral. Why can't we make this go viral? And finally, if we do not do this, and this was something I felt very deeply when we reached the 100 years of the First World War. That was the war to end all wars. And I teach war and literature. And you all know of all the great war poets who all died actually very, very young, Wilfred Owen and everybody else. 100 years later, we are back in that same place. Ukraine is again burning. Where have we gone wrong? If we do not stop and if we do not act together, we will have to relive what Pastor Martin Niemöller said, and our generation knows it. I don't know if you do. First, they came for this was the 1930s in the ghettos of Germany. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We're glad that we in India embraced Zoroastrianism. As we welcomed our Tibetan brothers and sisters. That's what makes this country, as Vivekananda did at Chicago, saying, "My brothers and sisters," to the people of the United States. And that's it. I mean, demolish otherness, as you said. And that's what anata shunyata means, interdependence. There is no self, which is the central insight of Buddhism. And we're going to turn to Ankit to elaborate on that. This self is a fictional construct, which our mind conjures. Yes, and so this is me, and this is mine, and these are my thoughts. Thoughts come and go. Their emotions come and go. They say you think 60,000 thoughts a day. That's what the psychologists tell us. How much of those you ask them to come? I mean, do you command your thoughts? Do you ask them to come? They just come to you, they go away. Why do you call them my thoughts? If I ask you in the next 20 seconds, don't think a thought, can you do it? And if you can't have control, why do you call them your thoughts? You know, it's amazing. If my hand started shaking and doing all sorts of things, it went out of control, I would probably go to a doctor and say, "Doctor, my hand is not listening to me. Do something." But our mind is not listening to us. Our thoughts come and go, our emotions come and go. They keep us awake at night. गालिब का एक शेर है, मौत का दिन मोयन है तो रात भर नींद क्यों नहीं आती? That death is destined. Everybody will die one day. So why can't I sleep at night? जब मौत का दिन मोयन है तो रात भर नींद क्यों नहीं आती? क्योंकि हजारों ख्वाहिशें ऐसी कि हर ख्वाहिश पे दम निकले, बहुत निकले मेरे अरमा फिर भी कम निकले. So many desires, they won't let me sleep. So the first truth of suffering of the Buddha was we are consumed by desire, and desire by definition is unfulfilled. The moment a desire is fulfilled, do you call it desire? If a desire is fulfilled, does it remain desire? No, it's fulfilled. Desire is always by definition unfulfilled. So what the Buddha was saying, we constantly live in a state of unfulfillment. The mind is constantly in a state of non-satiation. That's the nature of the mind. Nothing is ever complete. Why? Because the mind dissects reality. It cuts off you and the other, me and the other. So the instrument itself is problematic. Everything that will come through this instrument. So you have to transcend it. You have to realize wisdom, pragya, which is beyond the mind, the spirit. Yes, otherwise paralysis by analysis. So now we go to synthesis, and we listen to Dr. Ankit Goel from the point of view of Buddhism. And again, look at the grace. We are in Tibet House. Buddhism comes last, not the least. So,
good evening, everyone. My special thanks to Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdolji and Tibet House for giving me this opportunity to be seated among this such an esteemed panel members. I'm sure I'm presumably the youngest and the most inexperienced among all of you. So please pardon of me of all my inexperience and mistakes that I'm going to make. So I'm going to basically present my understanding of the topic here, and and as most of you have already covered what is meant by universal ethics, their needs, challenges. So I'll be focusing more from the perspective of the Buddhism, and my understanding from what I've learned from my venerable teachers, Venerable Geshe and other teachers. So to begin with, as we have understood that the universal ethics, they should relate to ethical principles that are based on the shared human values and not just limited to a particular nation, culture, religion, or a society. And as we know that at the very fundamental level, we all as human beings, and not just human beings, in fact all other birds, insects, all sentient beings, we have the innate wish to be happy and to be freed from suffering. So the universal ethics, at the very least, they should satisfy these two criteria, that I feel that they should be first of all general enough such that they are naturally acceptable and applicable across the various diversities. Furthermore, they should be able to provide effective mechanisms towards achieving a peaceful and sustainable world. Of course, many other things, but at least these two, and leading to genuine peace and happiness at a global level. And being sustainable, meaning that not just for the present generation, but for the generations to come. And this would automatically encompass critical aspects such as environmental responsibility and other goals as well. Now, I believe that at a global level, such a goal is achievable only when it filters down to an individual level and individual happiness. So we can further agree that the individual happiness can be understood broadly at two levels, as have already been mentioned, that material and physical level, and more importantly at the level of our mental well-being and happiness. And has already been mentioned that with great scientific progress in the past 2 centuries, we have more or less achieved the level of material comfort that we can say that we are quite there, in that we are materially quite happy. But we also see and realize that the same advancements that have caused us to be materially comfortable, they are also playing equal if not less role in causing the destruction around us. So it's a two-edged sword. But this also shows that though the material comfort that we have achieved, it plays an important role in our well-being, it alone is not sufficient. And that the primary importance is our mental well-being and happiness. And so if I'm a bit bold to say that the genuine happiness cannot be achieved until we really take care of inner mental well-being. So that is of prime importance. And now coming to the topic from the perspective of the Buddhist contribution, or how we can address the universal ethics. So His Holiness has always been a very strong proponent of the universal ethics, and especially I feel that he has played a role in showing how the teachings of Buddha Shakyamuni represent a framework which can be understood and applied in a secular manner towards attaining that well-being of humanity at large. And that they provide the tools and techniques that can play an important role in taking care of our inner well-being. And just to give an insight into this as an example, and as Professor Suneja ji and others, Swamiji has mentioned that the first teaching that the Buddha Shakyamuni gave after he attained enlightenment in Bodh Gaya was in Sarnath, Varanasi. And the topic of it was, as is popularly known these days, is on the Four Noble Truths. And as we can see that the main theme, the very, very first teaching that Buddha gave, the first truth, in fact, was the truth of suffering. He began with telling or knowing that the beings are suffering. They are coming to him because they feel that there is a problem they're facing and they want solution. They want to be happy. They are unhappy. So the first truth he taught was the truth of suffering. Now in there, of course, he taught what we all understand as the suffering, any physical pain, emotional disturbance that we go through, that even animals can understand that suffering is there. But he went further to explain that, okay, at a subtler level, even the day-to-day pleasurable experiences that we have, underlying them also there is a underlying suffering. Ultimately, they are also in the nature of suffering. So due to lack of time, I am not elaborating on this further. And he did not stop there. He said, even that is not it. At the most subtlest level, the most deepest level of our suffering is that as long as we are going to be we are going to do actions, as long as our actions are going to be influenced by our negative emotions or disturbing emotions, we are bound to remain in this suffering state unless we get rid of them. So he very clearly presented, first of all, that, okay, first we need to understand suffering, only then we can begin to deal with it. Then he went further in the next step, in the next noble truth. He said, in order to address those sufferings or to find a possible solution to those sufferings, we need to know if there is any cause to those sufferings, that they are not random. So next truth is known as the truth of the cause of suffering, where he actually elaborated upon the causes of the suffering, the origin of the sufferings. Now, excuse me. So when the Buddha Shakyamuni taught the causes of the suffering, of course, he said the negative emotions under which we do our actions, under pride, jealousy, anger, and so forth. So our actions which are driven by emotions. So emotions, they are at a grosser level, they cause our suffering. But what underlies all these emotions, all the disturbing states of our mind, is the fundamental ignorance. The ignorance which misperceives the reality. That is, the way we see the things and how they are, there is a gap between them. And as long as that is not addressed, we won't be able to free ourselves from it. So this is what he taught in the truth of the cause of suffering. Now, that is fine. We know how we are suffering and what is causing our suffering. Next question naturally arose, that is it possible to get rid of those sufferings? Is that cessation or state of cessation possible? So Buddha Shakyamuni said, yes, it is possible to get rid of all our sufferings by getting rid of the cause of suffering. So this he taught as the third noble truth, the truth of cessation of suffering and the causes of suffering. And the basic idea behind this is, the Buddha said that all these emotional states and our ignorance, they are not in our true nature. As many esteemed panelists have all mentioned, that our true nature is pure. It is like, for example, a water polluted having defilements. But those defilements can be removed if they are given a proper treatment. So likewise, he said, the defilements we have, they are adventitious in the sense that given proper treatment, it is possible to get rid of all of our defilements from the very root. So then the cessation is possible. But how? The mechanism. That he taught as a fourth noble truth, the truth of the path leading to cessation of suffering and the causes of suffering. So now, since the root of the suffering, Buddha Shakyamuni identified at the very root as the ignorance which misperceives the reality, In order to get rid of that ignorance, we need to cultivate the wisdom. He said that we can cultivate the wisdom which directly knows what reality is. And once we can do that, it is possible to get rid of that ignorance once and for all. So in that way, he also taught the whole path to be able to get rid of ignorance and thereby all the branching offshoots of disturbing emotions and actions resulting in the suffering. This presentation I made in the context of the universal ethics, that how we begin from the global level, then that we need at global level can only be addressed if we begin to address our problems at individual level. And then at the individual level, we need to first of all also, besides many other things, until and unless we deal with the inner workings of our own mind, we need to understand, we begin to understand them, we cannot in a stable and lasting manner be able to address these. And of course, I have mentioned various points without any details, and primarily this is due to lack of my ability and also a time frame limitation. And just to summarize, in terms of our goal towards universal ethics and responsibility, we get some idea that in the modern context also, one can gain benefit by getting to know and understand Buddha's teachings and also the teachings from our other very ancient Indian traditions. And since they primarily deal with the mind, and of course there are various challenges remaining, many of which have been mentioned. But I feel that one very important aspect is our ancient wisdom, we should be able to maintain, present it without diluting or altering them in the modern context so that they don't lose their essence. And just to conclude, I would like to mention this famous exhortation from Buddha Shakyamuni to all his followers, that just as a goldsmith tests the purity of a gold by burning, cutting and rubbing the gold, you should also likewise examine my words and put them into practice, but not simply because you respect me. And so this message from the Buddha, I feel it's of utmost importance because it asks that anybody who follows him or anything else, they should not follow merely out of blind faith or respect. They should always examine what is the message using critical reasoning and logical analysis, and only then follow it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ankit. I think we come full circle. We began by saying that Hinduism, Advaita Vedanta, teaches us we are all divine. And you just mentioned the root of all suffering is a fundamental ignorance or misperception of our true nature. Yes, we perceive ourselves to be this transient little selves. Yes, and if you delve into it, there's much beyond appearances. And I think everybody here has more or less soldiers of truth, Baha'i Lotus tradition, yes, from the Quran, Judaism, man in the image of God. So, yeah, I think we must be convinced about it. We must be established in it. As the Gita says, sthit pragya, steady in wisdom, established in wisdom. Sir, you know that Upanishad, Poonmada, jo aap bolte, all is complete, all is infinite. From the infinite, take away the infinite, what remains is the infinite. मुझे संस्कृत मैं जाऊंगा इनसे सीखने. And another way of putting it is interdependence or shunyata. I think, I don't know, Doji may agree or not with this, but I think they essentially say the same thing. Yes, the interdependent nature. So in a sense, non-duality, in the sense at least not the self versus somebody else's self. Demolishing this notion of the other. A great sense of unity. Yes. I mean, when Einstein said E equal to mc square, Earlier used to believe there are millions of compounds. There are. And then they said they're only made up of 101 periodic elements, sodium, potassium, so on. Then they said, no, those elements also made of just protons, neutrons, and electrons. So 3,000 compounds, now just hydrogen and so many protons, add another, becomes helium. Then they say, no, even proton, neutron, electrons have only quarks. Yes, all energy, all mass, you can convert. Yes. And then consciousness. Yes. So this world is in a sense alive. Plants, the trees, the air we breathe. There's nothing called dead matter. Everything is alive. That's why these lamps are paying homage to His Holiness by burning. Yes, we are not burning. They're burning to pay homage to His Holiness. They're alive. What is not alive? We become dead in our minds. That's why we can kill. We are dead in our hearts. So if our hearts were alive and sensitive and throbbing with love, all any religion is teaching is the unity of everything, nothing else. Interdependence, Shunyata means unity, sir. It means unity. We are all this, trees, flowers, air, cosmos. We are one. One without a second. Forms. My name is Vivek. It comes from two Sanskrit words, Viv and Ek. And English comes from Sanskrit, it's Indo-European language. Viv means vivid, vistar, vibhin in English, variety, variegated. Ek means one. What looks at the level of form, appearance as several, Viv, the underlying essence is just one. Forms are transient, they come and go. I was not here. One of the great Zen koans, they ask you to meditate. Imagine what your face was before your mother was born. They ask you to think about it. Yeah, I'm glad. Well done. Good. Well done. No, good. Yeah, I have.
She said, Dr. Shehnaz Kama, that for the timing information, very recently, I was there with Dr. Merchant. All the interfaith leaders, we made the chairperson of the National Commission for Minorities, and we raised the same question about the universal ethics and moral and ethical values. And we decided, he was so kind enough, he said now onwards, all these members, they would visit the universities and they will enlighten the students about the moral and ethical values, what are the universal ethics. So I said, I must tell you, we were all there from the different communities.
I still have 2 minutes left. I shall pass those 2 minutes to Dorji so that he'll be in karmic debt to me. So next life, to repay those 2 minutes, I'll have to be again next to him and cut another cake of His Holiness, who of course.
Right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Vivekji, and thank you all the representatives of the different religions, and also your thoughts, reflections, your sharings. They're so precious, and particularly being very courageous to speak about the challenges of the world today. What solutions can there be? And the another point that we really need to think of is that these, for example, say what Dr. Shehnaz said, that we need to talk about this. We need to go to each other. This is so important, and it is like a good meal requires various ingredients and various other factors. Likewise, to really get a solution, there are many factors required. One is to dissolve this, otherness. This is so important. For this, we know each other. We go to each other. We meet each other, and discuss. And then naturally, the moment two person, when we meet, we come to know each other well, and then we start to feel close. So this was feeling closeness, feeling close, that I feel close to you. This is a feeling of affection. When the affection, and many of you said that when the affection is there, love and affection is there, these barriers dissolved. All these otherness, exclusivity will all dissolve. So with this in mind, say the representatives here, should you have your papers that you have presented, we're so happy to compile together and bring that in the form of a book, proceeding the book, and for a future publication. So I request for your other papers. Otherwise, we'll do a quick transcription of the talks. We can then bring them in the form of book. So we are so glad that as all the representatives here rightly indicated, that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the one who really advocates the world peace, the need for the world to come together. Just imagine that if the world, all the world leaders, they're like His Holiness the Dalai Lama everywhere. The world is going to be a very different world. It's not going to be a world of chaos, fights, tensions, border tensions. None of these will exist. We all become like one family. So let's pray that more and more leaders of the future generations, they'll come out in the form of the universal ethics. Universal, to think of universe, the whole universe, not as fragmented individuals or individual countries or individual persons. So let us pray that more of such leaders will come in the near future, that the world is going to be a very different world in the future, and that the future generations, that today's generation should be feeling ashamed of the future generations. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Venerable Geshe-la. And I would like to thank Professor Vivek Suneja ji for chairing today's session in such a way that it was really inspiring for all of us. And like I always used to say that he always shares his knowledge and wisdom in such a sense of humor that it really makes us active. At the same time, you get to know each and everything what he said, what he mentioned. And at the same time, I would like to thank each and every one of you learned scholars for attending this session and making it a really propitious evening, I would say. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, before we conclude this session, I would like to request our director, Venerable Geshe-la, to kindly offer this white scarf and the souvenir to our chairperson and our respected scholars. Right. Professor Vivek Suneja ji, I request all of you to kindly give him a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor. Swami Sarvaloknanda ji. Thank you, Swamiji. Dr. Rabi Ezekiel Isaac Malakar ji. Thank you. Dr. Khwaja Iftikhar Ahmad ji. Professor Amrit Kaur Basra ji. Dr. A.K. Merchant ji. Dr. Sharnaz Kama ji. Thank you, ma'am. And we have Dr. Ankit Goyal ji. Yeah, please give them a big round of applause, everyone. Thank you very much. Yeah, with this, now we'll conclude this session, and we have another program, on standby. So that's why I would like to request all my fellow participants that we have an arrangement of tea at the reception. So kindly help yourself with it. And I would like to request all of you, our learned scholars, to kindly come up for a group picture. Yeah.